Jason Miller had always thought love was a simple equation. He was a 42-year-old financial analyst from Austin, Texas. Sharp, dependable, well-spoken, and a man who had known both heartbreak and stability. After his divorce 5 years ago, Jason focused on work and raising his 10-year-old daughter, Grace. Romance had become an afterthought, almost like a closed chapter. But as life often does, it threw him a curveball in the form of someone he least expected. Sophie Bennett, a 27-year-old marketing consultant his company had brought in for a short-term project. Sophie was vibrant, kind-hearted, quick-witted, and full of life. She carried herself with grace but also with an air of vulnerability that Jason immediately noticed. From the moment they shook hands in the office conference room, he felt something shift. At first, he chalked it up to admiration or fleeting attraction, but with every passing day, their conversations deepened. They talked about everything. Her love for old soul music, his stories about raising Grace, her fascination with astronomy, his passion for classic novels. They built something slowly and without force. And then, subtle things started happening, little signs, little gestures. Jason began to wonder, was Sophie beginning to feel emotionally connected to him? So, what did that mean? Over the following weeks, the answers came. Not in words, but in actions. And those actions told Jason everything he needed to know. The first time it became obvious was one late Thursday evening. The office had emptied out after a long quarterly review, but Jason and Sophie remained behind, finishing up reports. He glanced up from his laptop and noticed Sophie had made him a cup of coffee without asking. Not just any coffee, black with a dash of cinnamon, just the way he liked it. When he looked at her in surprise, she smiled and said, "You mentioned that's your favorite once, remember?" It was a small thing, but it struck him like lightning. She remembered. That's when he realized. When a younger woman feels emotionally connected, she pays attention to even the smallest details. That night, as he drove home, Jason couldn't stop thinking about her. Was this really happening? Was Sophie letting her guard down for him? Soon after, she started showing up more frequently near his office space, even when her tasks didn't require it. It wasn't intrusive, just casual. An extra question about a report, a spontaneous suggestion for lunch, a random check-in about how his daughter was doing. Jason noticed she was seeking his company without reason. It was gentle, like she was slowly merging their worlds. This was another telltale sign. When emotionally connected, a woman will naturally gravitate toward your presence. One Friday evening, Sophie asked him to join her at a local charity event she was organizing. "I know it's last minute," she had said, "but I'd love for you to be there. It means a lot to me." Jason hesitated for a second, not because he didn't want to go, but because this invitation felt personal. When he arrived, he realized Sophie had saved a seat for him at her table. As the night progressed, she introduced him to her friends as Jason, the person who's been my rock lately. The warmth in her eyes, the slight lean toward him when she spoke, the shared glances across the table. It wasn't about show. It was intimacy without labels. Later that night, as they walked to their cars, she opened up. "You know, I don't really let people in easily," she confessed. "But with you, it's different. I feel safe." Jason paused. It wasn't a declaration of love. It didn't need to be. Emotional connection isn't always thunderous. Sometimes it's a whisper in the quiet night. One afternoon, Jason was caught in a rainstorm without an umbrella on his way to a meeting. As he rushed to the entrance, soaked and irritated, he got a text from Sophie. "Check the lobby desk. Left you something." There was a navy blue umbrella with a sticky note. "Rainy days happen. Now you're covered." That gesture wasn't about the rain. It was her way of showing she cared deeply. When a woman is emotionally connected, she becomes thoughtful in ways that speak volumes. Their bond continued to grow. One Sunday, Jason invited her over for dinner with Grace. He kept the invitation low-key, not wanting to overwhelm her, but to his surprise, Sophie showed up not just with a smile, but with homemade cookies, Grace's favorite. "She mentioned it last week when we were on FaceTime," Sophie said casually. Throughout the evening, she played board games with Grace, laughed wholeheartedly, and never once looked at her phone. That night, Jason saw something new. When a woman feels emotionally connected, she welcomes your family and tries to become a part of it, naturally and without pressure. It didn't take long for Sophie to begin opening up about her own vulnerabilities. One night, over a quiet dinner, she shared stories of growing up with a single mom, her struggles with self-worth, and her fears about dating someone older. "It's scary, you know," she said softly, "to feel like I'm falling for someone who's already lived a whole other life before me." Jason took her hand gently. "That just means I've had time to figure out what truly matters." She smiled, eyes glassy, and whispered, "I think I'm starting to figure that out too." That level of honesty was the final confirmation. When a younger woman opens up her emotional wounds and trusts you with her truths, it means the connection runs deep. But nothing solidified their bond more than what happened the day Jason's daughter broke her arm at school. He rushed out of work and sent Sophie a brief message, letting her know he wouldn't be back that day. An hour later, as he sat in the hospital waiting room, Sophie walked in carrying snacks, coffee, and a warm blanket. "Didn't want you waiting alone," she said. Jason was speechless. Not just because she came, but because she knew he'd need comfort before he could ask for it. That was the moment he knew. After Grace was discharged, Sophie insisted on driving them home. She stayed that evening, making soup, checking on Grace, and later sitting beside Jason in silence. No expectations, just presence. It was the kind of love that didn't demand. It simply showed up. Weeks turned into months. Their relationship evolved slowly but deeply. Sophie never rushed him. She never asked where things were going. She simply allowed the connection to lead the way. And in doing so, Jason found himself falling not just in love, but into something real, anchored by emotional intimacy, trust, and mutual respect. One evening, as they watched a documentary on the stars, Sophie's favorite topic, she leaned her head against his shoulder and said, "Did you know stars don't disappear? Even when they seem gone, their light travels for years. Sometimes it takes forever to reach us." Jason turned to her, smiling. "Then maybe that's us. Maybe we were meant to find each other after all this time." Sophie looked up at him with eyes filled with quiet affection and said, "I think we were." And in that moment, Jason realized emotional connection wasn't just a phase or a passing feeling. It was the foundation of something lasting. Sophie had shown him, in 7 powerful ways, what it means when a younger woman genuinely feels emotionally connected. She remembers the smallest things. She seeks your presence. She includes you in her world. She cares for you without asking. She opens her heart and family. She trusts you with her truths. She shows up when it matters most. None.